Now, whose whole life has been a bed of roses, or a walk in the park, or a picnic? Raise your hand, apart from the man down here who tells lies. Raise your hand if I've just described your life. From that, I'm assuming that you've all got a story, a drama, or a conflict, or a tragedy, or a disappointment that you've gone through. Raise your hand if that would be right. Welcome. You're amongst friends. We're all on the same page. Now, do you think the fact that we've lost a child would give me the ability to author a book on grief? The fact that I can stand up here today with a smile on my face, looking like a happy and well-adjusted person, and the person that's most likely to disagree with that isn't here today, so that's okay, should indicate that I know a little bit about the subject and how to deal with it. Can I tell you some of my story that's not in the book? If you come back with me to June 1980, at 5:30 a.m. on a cold wintry morning, I was 33 weeks pregnant and things started to go wrong. This was our first baby. And I have to tell you, I was more than a little bit scared about what was happening. But after 4 days, they said we can't do anything to stop you from going into labour. And we had a healthy baby boy, Luke, who's standing over there, 6'3" tall. His rocky start didn't hold him back. When Luke was 3 days old, he picked up an infection. The nurses came in the middle of the night to wait. It was really cold. And so they said, well, we'll take him down to the nursery to warm him up and he'll be back at breakfast time. Well, when I woke up for breakfast, there was no Luke in my room. He was down in the neonatal unit. First thing that morning, the doctor came in and he said, Gail, I need to talk to you and your husband. What time's Ron coming in to see you? And I said, well, he'll be here about 9 tonight. And he said, right, I'll see you both then. So Ron arrived, and so did the doctor, after a very, very long day. And the doctor said, look, Luke's got a really potent infection, and we won't know for 24 hours whether the antibiotics are going to kick in. I'm sorry to tell you, but he may die. So there I was with a 4-day-old baby, being told that. It's quite heart-shattering. As you can see, Luke pulled through, and everything was fine. But that was, I think, the introduction to me to grief. It didn't happen, but what if he did die? It was kind of like an anticipatory grief. And thankfully, we got through that one. When Luke was 2.5 years old, we had a baby girl called Katie who was born 15 weeks pregnant. And she didn't make it. She only lived for just over an hour. So now we were faced with real grief. Now back then, miscarriage, stillbirth, premature births, they were actually not really recognised by anybody because people didn't know what to say, and they've now been titled silent grief. Because basically people who deal with that go through it on their own. And nobody really realises the pain and heartache they're going through because they never actually got to meet the baby. But they simply didn't know what to say. So it was really tricky. If you read chapter 7 in the book, and now you have to write a book or you'll never find out what it is, I tell you what to say, and it's really, really very simple. You know how Gideon's Bibles have a list in the front? If you're feeling, depressed about something on a certain day, well, perhaps read this verse. And if you're feeling something else, feeling like tearing someone apart, well, maybe you need to read that verse. Well, at the back, I've got a little list of all the emotions that you may experience with whatever grief situation you're facing, and the chapter that you might need to reread, just to help you through that situation. It's designed to help you understand that you're not going mad when things happen to you or when you start feeling these strange things happening. I think you'll agree, if you look at the cover, that Nicole Dunkley has done the most amazing job. I said to Nicole that I wanted to start down here on the bottom left-hand corner in a really cold, dark, dismal place. And I wanted somebody to be going on a journey that was really quite difficult and end up somewhere in the light. Depiction of what we've gone through. And the fact that there's footprints in the snow, that's a slow, trudging journey, but at the end there's light. So I think she's done a stunning job of coming up with that. The last section of the book is actually about the stories of other people. I've had a number of people who very kindly told me their story of grief. Not all of them relate to death because I've come up with a whole list of things, and it's not an exhaustive list of reasons why someone might grieve. But those people have shared their stories. One lady says, and she's from New South Wales, Helen her name is, "You described so many emotions and situations where I found myself nodding in agreement. You were spot on with the things not to say and what to say. I never knew what to say to people when they'd lost someone. My heart would go out to them, but I didn't know what to say. You're right, just say," and then ... and you'll find it in the book. I've also added a comprehensive list, but not complete, of why you might grieve. What if the doctor just tells you you have to have a limb amputated? Now, my mum lost a limb in an accident. That was a grief situation that she got thrown into. What if you have to leave your home and move into aged care? That's a grief situation, losing where you live. What if your talking budgie dies? Now, that might sound pathetic to someone, but not to the person who loses their pet budgie. So if the grief is real for someone else, then you need, even if it's not to you, you need to let them experience that. And I talk about that in the book too. Heather Drysdale, a lady from Kadina whose daughter was killed in a car accident on a long weekend, said, "For many years I had a fear of being on the road on public holidays. Lots of people consider this an irrational fear, but it was real to me." And that really hit me. I thought, yeah, we do need to allow people to grieve in their own way. There's also a list of platitudes in the back of the book, things that people say that might sound trite. They're all very true, like time heals and all those sorts of things, but they're not helpful to say right then. So there's a list of those, just so that you can avoid a few things when listening to people. So I've aimed to compile a book that's easy to read, with illustrations that lighten a heavy subject. Now, David Kowalik has illustrated it. In a previous life, he was a graphic artist. He's also got a bit of, as the typesetter said, a bit of a sick sense of humour. He says he is a tragic man. Sorry, David. But he said it in a very nice way. He's come up with some fabulous illustrations that prove a point with what I'm talking about. It's the type of book that won't add to a grieving person's woes. It won't take too much time to read. I've timed it and it takes 70 minutes if you read it aloud. It's designed to be a ready reference to pull someone through a particular day by helping them realise they're not going mad. It's okay to feel that particular way. I'll just read a little excerpt from the book about a time when I thought I was going mad. I describe a situation thus, and it continues thus. This episode was shortly after, followed by delusions about what could happen. Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead, so why couldn't he raise Catherine from the dead, just to show his amazing power in modern times? Thus it was for several weeks that I went about my life fully expecting Catherine to appear, alive and well, and that we could resume our former lives, but with an amazing and newsworthy story. Of course, this didn't happen, but the hope of it happening buoyed me along for a while. See how I was delusional, but that's how I was, and it was okay to feel like that for that particular time. So the book's designed also for you to have a copy, but to give to a friend without them feeling like they've got to wade through a whole textbook. Has anybody here ever been given a book by somebody and you read it kind of under obligation? It's a horrible feeling. You do it because you think you have to read it and you find it frightfully boring. This book's not like that, because even if you don't want to read it, just look at David's illustrations and you'll be fine. So congratulations, you have been part of the worldwide launch of Unscrambling Grief, right here in Adelaide. I'm so grateful that you've given me your time to be here today for the launch, and I'm hoping that the book will give permission to walk their grief path in their own unique way and their own time. Now, I'd be really grateful if you felt inclined to share what's happened today with your Facebook and Twitter friends, with your email lists, Pinterest, LinkedIn, all that social media stuff, because I believe that this, as David said, this book has a message for everyone, and you don't know when grief's going to strike you and in what form. You don't know whose heart out there is breaking, and if this book could be a small part of their recovery. So if you want to heal broken hearts without the hassle of becoming a heart surgeon, spread copies of the book and give people permission to heal.